My brother has 3 kids from a previous marriage who feel less than because their dad favorites their half-sister more and takes only her on their vacations, so I have been including them on my trips to make up for it, but now my brother can't afford to go on vacations anymore and asked me to start taking the spoiled girl with me. Posted by you/fu Jenny. So, long story short, I, 35F, live and work abroad but am from the Midwest. I grew up with my brother Jason, 43M, and our parents, 70s. We were working class, had what we needed, but not well off by any means. When I was in high school, Jason married Tiffany, 40F, who is, was, and likely always will be a mess, heavy drinker, partier, and God knows what else, but she was hot, and my brother is, to put it nicely, a dweeb. They had Jace, 19M, Jeff, 17M, and Hannah, 12F. Their marriage broke down before Hannah was born. They tried working it out but ultimately got divorced. Jason started dating Jenny, 43F, while splitting custody of the kids with Tiffany 50-50. Since Tiff had been a stay-at-home mom, she received child support and alimony, and my brother worked a lot. I liked Jenny at first. She wasn't a complete smoke show like Tiff, but she was kind, had a good job, and was well educated. I thought she was a much better match. At first, I know Jenny was upset that the kids didn't immediately love her and call her mom when they were there, and the divorce was hard on them. She got pregnant somewhat quickly with Daisy, 10F, and they got married. Around this time, the older kids started refusing to go back to Tiff's. She was always drinking and having guys around, so all 3 moved in full-time with Jason and Jenny. Tiff left town and is no longer in the kids' lives. I try to be understanding. I'm sure having a newborn and then 3 older kids full-time is difficult. But Jenny completely changed. She stopped working but declared she was only a stay-at-home mom to her kid. Jason was working 70-plus hours to make ends meet, and her parents were also helping them out, but she controls the finances. This means that the 3 of them, Jason, Jenny, and Daisy, operate as a family unit, going to dinners, events, and even vacations while leaving the older 3 kids at home. I have always thought this was disgusting and voiced my opinion about it, but Jason just said his divorce broke him emotionally and he will do anything possible to keep Jenny happy so that their marriage works out. Gross, yes. And to be frank, 10 years ago I was younger, broker, and dumber, so it was more like, yes, my brother sucks as a dad, but I live on another continent, and all I can do is be supportive of the kids. Not a great attitude in retrospect, and I'm disappointed in myself. I really did my best. When they refused to pay for Jace to learn how to drive, even though Jenny refused to drive the kids anywhere, my mom taught him and I bought him a used car. We had to shame Jason into putting him on his insurance, and he makes Jace pay for it. Same with Jeff, they share the car and use it for their activities and Hannah's. My wife, an only child, and we don't want children, and I have the 3 of them as our sole beneficiaries in our will, something we decided when we found out that Jenny and Jason planned to leave them only the bare minimum, with everything else going to Daisy. Also, after my wife and I got married, 6 years ago, we decided to start taking the older kids on annual trips with us when we visited the US. Nothing fancy, we might be child-free, but we're not billionaires, just well off, things like a week in Florida, Utah, California, etc. They're very outdoorsy kids, so they've had a blast every year. We plan these trips when my brother takes Jenny and Daisy on theirs, so they don't care. Normally, we vacation in the summer, but Jace got an internship this summer, so we decided to move our trip to the fall and are going to Maine leaves. I let Jason know the dates, they align with their fall breaks, no worries, and he basically said we need to start including Daisy. Jenny's parents made some bad investments. They're fine, but they're not helping them out anymore, and Jenny is looking for a job. Since her parents had always paid for their trips, they can't go on one this year. Even if all was fair, I wouldn't want to take Daisy on a trip. This might shock you, but with parents like that, and I feel bad saying this about a child, Daisy is a huge brat, spoiled, mean, and constantly bragging about the things she gets that her siblings don't. She once told me they weren't her siblings, they were Tiffany's kids. She throws toddler-level tantrums on holidays if she doesn't get as much and more than the other kids, tells my wife and me we're going to hell. Edit, I now feel bad for including this. She said it about 5 years ago a few times, and when Jenny was told, it was about the only time I've ever seen her discipline Daisy. I guess she'd heard it from Jenny's aunt, but it was hurtful and hard to forget with everything else, and since Jenny waits on her hand and foot, she's a total slob. I hope she grows out of it when she's older, but there is no way I'd want to take her on a vacation. So I told Jason I didn't think we'd be able to handle all 4 kids, and would just go with the 5 of us. He said Jenny could come to help out. Absolutely not, or our mom could go, love her, but she's getting a hip replacement next month and does not want to go. Plus, the car we'd need for all these people on a road trip would be ridiculous. We'd probably need two, and you know what? I don't want to. Anyway, sorry for trauma dumping, this is getting long. I was worried Jason would not let me take the other kids on the trip, but they decided to go the route of shaming us online. Obviously, it's working with their friends and her family, but even my dad told me to stick to my guns. But my wife came to me the other day and basically said, "Are we even better than Jenny if we're favoring some kids over another just because we don't like their mom?" Before, we were evening things out, but now we're obviously favoring the oldest. She told me to think of the long-term health of my family and our relationships. She said that it's my family and my decision but wants me to think about it. My gut is saying just take the older three, but Daisy is only 10, she's not to blame. Would it make me an evil aunt to leave her out? Top/relevant comments. Downvoted commenter. You said take the older kids on annual trips. 12 and 10 is not a big enough difference. If you did it once for a small trip because one had plans, that's one thing. But every year excluding one kid who is not even that much younger than another, that's really evil. Ops response. I think you are confused. We took the older three on vacations the same weeks that Jason and Jenny would take Daisy on a trip. This was after 3 years of them leaving the older kids home/with my parents while they took Daisy on vacation. It is only this year that Daisy wouldn't be going on a trip while the older ones will. Commenter 2. Your family is already broken, mostly because of your brother's idiotic choices and his wife's selfishness. No, taking only 3 of 4 kids is not great, but you're already up to your neck in horrid thanks to other people's actions. Do the older kids plan on keeping dear old dad and the evil stepmother in their lives when they become adults? How much contact would you actually have with your brother, his lazy wife, and their spawn if you weren't looking out for the older nibblings? Your parents seem to be siding with you and the older kids as well. What are their thoughts on the situation? You need to start thinking now about what you want for your family and what you're likely to actually have. Start putting your time and focus on that. Not the jerk for choosing the older kids and not the brat. Maybe fight fire with fire and start publicly shaming your brother and co for how they've treated his kids over the last 10 years. Or at least threaten to. Ops response. After Jace left for college, Jason made him give up his house key and told him he needed to stay elsewhere going forward. So over breaks, he's been staying with my parents and has very little contact with Jason. Since that's probably what's going to happen to Jeff next year, my wife and I have talked about buying a condo to stay in when we're in town, around 2 months out of the year, since my parents' place is so small. We normally Airbnb it, but that company sucks now, lol. And we pay Jace/Jeff to house sit. Jace is at college, but Jeff wants to do a trade, so we'll likely stay in town, but I cannot ask an 18-year-old to pay rent, that's crazy. But yes, if Jace is any indication, they won't have much contact with Jason when they are adults. Once Hannah isn't living with them, my contact with Jason will be as low as possible, just about our parents. My mom and dad are complicated. Jenny threatens that if they don't give Daisy the best attention, they can't see any of them. I don't know what that means. It's just from this insane text she sent Mom. They do love Daisy, so they put up with them so they can see their grandkids. They basically said Jason has a bad picker but is a hard worker, I don't know. Commenter 3. The parents of the 3 kids are the jerk first. Jenny seems to have morphed into one too. So I would say stick to your guns and take the 3 kids, exclude Daisy/Jenny. You don't owe anyone an explanation. Just book the trip and leave. Your wife is very kind. Ops response. Yes, my parents are old-school Catholics and weren't great when I first came out, but they have come around. Once, my mom had a bit too much wine and, almost annoyingly, made it clear to my wife that she was the best daughter-in-law, no questions asked. Commenter 4. Not the jerk. Those poor kids deserve any and all time they can get away from their awful family. Why hasn't anyone else offered to take them? I feel like the stepmonster would jump at the chance to get rid of them, and frankly, she should have been reported for abuse ages ago. This is ridiculous. Ops response. None of it's abuse in the legal sense. My mom was a teacher and a mandated reporter and looked into it years ago. They've always stayed on the side of jerk and not criminal, for our state's laws. Op on Daisy following rules and directions from other people besides Jason and Jenny. I agree that she's 10 and the product of her parents, but my mom really has tried with her. Last month, she was over while Jenny was at an interview, and when she tried telling Daisy to put more sunscreen on, Daisy locked her out of the house. Nobody else was home. My mom isn't allowed to discipline her, and when Jenny got home, she tore into Mom for endangering her child because she was inside alone. I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. Commenter 5. Not the jerk. But your brother is a giant one. He's giving up his oldest kids for his wife and their child. Why hasn't anyone sat him down and told him flat out he's being a crappy father to the oldest and even the youngest? His oldest will end up resenting him, and the youngest is not going to be able to function as an adult. He needs to be told he's a failure at parenting and that doing anything to make his marriage work is the worst thing he can do. His wife is obviously using his weakness to extremes. She's a bad person too. Tell them no, the youngest isn't allowed because she's a terrible brat due to the way they failed her, and there are consequences for that. Op's response. He's been told all of this many times by me, my mom, and even my dad. He doesn't care and says he'll do anything to make Jenny happy because he couldn't live with himself for having another failed family. I don't know how you even respond to that. Op on her brother having a relationship with his children once they are 18 and out of the house and showing respect to Jenny. He is a dweeb, and I've said all of this to him. He says he doesn't care if they don't have a relationship in the future, they should have been nicer to his wife, and she's his priority. Has Op considered doing small day trips with Daisy and disciplining her? I live on a different continent, so when I come back, it's mostly for my parents, my wife's family, or the trips. So it's not easy to take a day trip with them, and since nobody is allowed to discipline Daisy except Jenny, it sounds awful. Update 11 days later. Hey guys, I posted about a week ago, and a lot of people ask for updates, but things have gotten yucky. A quick thing, Daisy is not constantly some Veruca Salt-esque monster child. She can be a brat, but she is also funny and caring. She's the only grandchild who has stuck with the church choir that my mom runs, even though I don't think she loves it. She always calls my wife and me on our birthdays, and when their dog was too old to go upstairs, she brought her mattress downstairs and slept next to her every night before she passed away so she wouldn't be lonely. People aren't cartoon villains, so please stop attacking a 10-year-old. Sorry I didn't reply to direct messages, I don't feel comfortable doing that. I don't know if that account people were messaging me was Jenny's, and honestly, it wouldn't change anything. I did change some small things for anonymity, and it would be a shame if there were more than one person out there like her. Finally, just a reminder that I live halfway around the world, a 15-hour minimum plane ride, away. I can't just pop over, and there are time zone issues. I also do well for myself, but I don't have unlimited money. So please stop telling me to take Daisy on trial trips and buy a 4-bedroom house for the oldest 3 to live in, lol. Keep in mind, I live in remote, mostly rural areas, not bustling metropolises with vibrant expat communities and international schools. It's the nature of my job, I've worked hard for it, and it's not conducive to having kids or young adults living with me. I'm not a messy person, and I don't do social media drama, so I've been ignoring Jenny and Jason's little vague booking campaign. Honestly, I wasn't even going to update until I got some background information, but basically, I got a call from my brother last weekend, and it was Daisy crying and telling me she would be good and she's sorry for being bad. She said she wants to go on the trip and promised she'd be quiet and not say anything rude. It was dark, and she was saying she was going to find a way to show me, my wife, and her parents that she was good and not a bad person, and that everything would be okay. I tried calming her down and assured her that both her aunts love her very much and don't think she is a bad person at all. My brother took the phone and said, "See what you've done," and hung up. I tried calling back. He didn't answer. I texted my mom as well as Jace and Jeff to see what was going on. Of course, I woke up to a post about how cruel people can be to innocent children. Anyway, between my mom and Jeff, I got some more background info. I don't know where all their money goes or what kind of bath her parents took, but their financial situation is bad, as in asking my fixed/low-income parents for money for Daisy's tuition bad. Obviously, they couldn't help them, and I guess Jenny and my brother had told Daisy she was going to have to pick between vacation and her school. She picked her school, but since it's taken Jenny longer than expected to find a job, they can no longer swing that either. I know you all think she's a little demon, but my heart broke for her with that. And yes, I'm not getting into it because I'll rage too long, but yes, the older 3 have always gone to public school. I do think it was Jenny's parents paying the tuition, though. According to Jeff, Daisy is getting older and forming more of her own opinions, and Jenny doesn't like that. When Daisy found out she couldn't go back to her school, she asked about a trip, and when my brother told Jenny I'd said no, Jenny told Daisy she couldn't go because she was bad. Heartbreaking, and just generally A+ parenting all around. I don't think this is the end of all this. Jeff needs to be more discreet, but he told me Jenny was losing it because of Botox and Ozempic withdrawal. He said the house wasn't as bad as you'd think, she mostly ignores them and has continued to do so. He works, and Hannah has spent most of the summer at her best friend's house. One quick thing, I know everyone is worried about my nephews and niece and thinks they live horrible, miserable lives and that this vacation is the only bright spot of the year. Yes, their lives are completely unfair, and I feel awful for them, but they are happy kids. From what Jace has told me, since Jenny had Daisy, they've always just treated her like an eccentric roommate that their dweeb of a dad is sleeping with. They're not all rude and screaming at one another, more like polite indifference. They also care a lot about Daisy and would never ask me to leave her at home. It's me who doesn't want to bring her, because she needs a parent with her, and as Drill would say, I would face God and walk backwards into hell before I ever invited, much less paid for, Jenny to come with us. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Daisy is old enough to understand that her parents have engaged in the same kind of exclusionary behavior that she is chafing under. Jenny and Jeff need to eat some crow here. I think you could use this vacation as a way to spend some time with Daisy, helping her realize her parents' behavior toward her siblings is hurtful and that even if they won't change, she can do better. Hannah and Daisy are so close in age, you would think they'd be closer. Would going to school with the other kids be an incentive at all? It might take the sting out of the school change. Ops response. I cannot take a child on a trip when I'm not allowed to discipline said child. I love Daisy, but it's a non-starter. I just wanted people to stop acting as if she's an irredeemable brat. Sorry, pressed reply too soon. Hannah and Daisy are not close at all. I'm sure Hannah would be helpful at Daisy's new school, but they aren't close like sisters can be. Is Op allowed to discipline the 3 older nibblings? Yes, I'm allowed to tell them no and, if they don't act right, give them consequences. Commenter 2. I understand none of this is Daisy's fault. But her parents' actions need consequences. The person who gets caught in the crossfire is Daisy. Unfortunate, but it needs to be evened out somewhere. Best case scenario is brother steps up for the other kids so everything can be even. But until that happens, keep doing what you are doing. Those 3 kids need someone who has their back. Ops response. Unfortunately, knowing my brother, this is unlikely to happen. Commenter 3. I'm so extremely worried about Hannah's mental health. Growing up in a house where your stepmom treats you like this and your younger half-sibling is spoiled while you are so close in age is devastating on a kid. Her brothers are older and likely able to compartmentalize things, but I seriously worry about Hannah. Ops response. Hannah and I are very, very close and text every single day. She is okay, she and her siblings know her dad isn't crap, and her stepmom's opinion is worth dirt. She is excited about college and her life beyond living with them, yes, but she's motivated. And she is very close with her brothers. Commenter 4. I wouldn't say I think badly of Daisy, she's a product of her parents, but I think it's more important to think of the older 3. I'm sorry, but life isn't fair, and they've had years to learn this. It's time the youngest learns. This trip is something good the older 3 always had to look forward to. Don't take that away from them because suddenly Daisy's life took a downturn. Let them have something she doesn't, it'll do her some good. Maybe she can finally empathize with her siblings for once. Ops response. This is what I feel. Yes, it's unfair, but ever since their economic downturn, Jenny and Jason have gone out to dinner multiple times with just Daisy. Continued paying for Daisy's travel sport when they've only ever let the oldest 3 do free extracurriculars through school. Gone on a long weekend trip with one of Jason's friends to their lake house with Daisy, the 2 that still live with them were invited, I'm told. Gone to visit Jenny's parents, who live near a beach and still have a nice house with a pool, with Daisy. And those are just the things I know about. Again, I love Daisy and I know this isn't her fault, but sometimes life isn't fair. Ultimately, it's my vacation, my choice, and honestly, even all things considered, I don't want to travel with Daisy.